we are still sort of sensing or feeling the energy for our big love circle. For Tahir's information, we had 50 people turn up. Last Saturday, we had a in-person love circle. So our in-person love circle is once a month, and Zoom gathering is twice a month. And our in-person gathering went really, really well, we have to say. Um, the inquiry, self-inquiry part was really good. We had some solid questions, per, some what do you call the word? Important question, yeah. Important question coming through that is relevant to most of us, for us who go through this spiritual awakening journey, who is trying to be a good person, trying to help community, but from the non-dual sense. This is it. This is it. This is it. Isn't very clear to many.
There's nothing to add on, although it might appear that something can be added on. There's nothing to be done. There isn't even a doer. But it might occur that something appears to need to be done. There's no self in that. Those things that arise dependently on everything else and appear to be so, and support that appears to be known, and to support those things that we seem to question about. That appearance, it comes and goes. There's no permanency to this. There's nothing to seek out. This quietude is natural for all of this. One simply relaxes into the natural state. There's actually no one to relax into a natural state. There's nothing really to do. But what appears to be meditation or rest might occur like that. Not to put anything special on that, because whether there appears to be activity or not, that quietude, if you like, that emptiness, may be better to call it emptiness. It has no quality. It needs no quality. So for this last week, it seems to have been really deep diving into nothing for no one. There's no agenda in it. Nothing needs to be added on. Nothing needs to be taken away. Apparent things seem to be added on. One can't say it's even needing to relax. There's no doing in it. There's nowhere to get to. There's no mover, there's no moving. There's no moved. It just appears to be so. no special stations, no grand achievements, but there appears to be things gained and lost. All this comes and goes. This arises, remains for a moment, and then ceases. There's no need for a maintained continuity, because that which it appears to be dependent on simply arises. That depends on that is just simply that which is arising. An okayness in simplicity, a gentle seeing things arise and passing away, things arising that's preferable, things arising that aren't preferable, and remaining for a while and then passing away. There might appear to be things that have more value and more permanence. These things arise and remain and pass away.
In terms of this impermanence, this is where many people struggle and got confused because they attach to the individual identity. They identify with the body. Now, this body is pretty, this body is a boss of a business, this body is achieving something, this body is smart, this body is successful in certain area. Now, this identity showed up in this body. It's where people caught up. Like, this is me, this is my body. I'm a female, I'm a healer. I do healing, I do my community, I offer many services to my community. This is my meaning, this is my purpose. In that, it's a trap.
There's nothing wrong with anything showing up as it is. Those things seem to work or not. It's not about it working, either. everything becomes very, very simple. The tasks that seem to arise seem to be almost ready at hand. It comes with an interdependence or not, an opportunity to learn. These things come and go. It doesn't have to accumulate knowledge. It doesn't have to accumulate anything. It may do. These things come and go. And, for wherever attention seems to be directed, whether it's in matter of the world, the relationship of sensation in the body, the perception, the mediating force between sensation and making it mean something, images and things occurring, mind formation, showing up, arising, all this arises in consciousness and of consciousness, awareness, consciousness is arising. Before that, throughout all of that, not within that, no thing different to that. There isn't a self and a circumstance. Those things which are dependent seem to arise mutually or not in proximity. Desire might arise apparently in the body as sensation or perception for some experience, mind formations about such things. Such things arise and pass away. What appears to be acting in the midst of those things is because they're mutually dependent, perfectly complicit. No separation, no separate actor and actor meeting. This is just arising like this. There seems to be functional and dysfunctional beingness showing up as persons. This is arising in this. And it's perfect, whether it's fluid and useful or disruptive. what looks like that constant tone underlying everything, empty, clear, always there, not as a state. Throughout everything, not throughout anything. Not in any time, not in the amount of time that a thought could arise. Thoughts arise and not. That self-driver isn't there concocting all these other nuances, speculating on its circumstance. There's no need for speculation. I don't mean in functional things. Speculation may arise, but that's called spiritual speculation, not necessary. One can discern about things, but those things just simply arise immediately in a circumstance, in context to its interdependency. That comes and goes. Everything that's claimed as an apparent self out of all of that is exactly what? But mutual contingents working in a world, perhaps, in the waking state. All this comes and goes. Yes, Tahir?
Does Sunyata recommend to get rid of apparent self deliberately?
No, not necessary, because it's not there already. What's being identified is attributes and circumstances for where that appears to recur. If you look really carefully, from what is it looking through awareness back into exactly the equation of something, put simply, is made. It's not really made, it just really arises. It looks to be made because there's elements of those qualities that seem to be movable for body or mind. But that's all contextual. That's all circumstantial. That's all interdependent for it to arise to be so. You know, if you look at these things but for where is the self? In the person, the body, perhaps simply name it as a locality. But we're pointing at something a little bit different. Not that a personality wouldn't show up, because that's showing up out of the attributes of conditioning. So it behaves that way, perfectly good, or not. You see? Oh, that's just arising. You could see maybe a continuity of something of this showing up out of body-mind formation, recurring sensations. Things appear to taste the same way. Certain flowers appear to smell the same way. There seems to be a continuity in things. That is the self is exactly what? You know, you have to look just simply. So it's not a question of getting rid of anything. You don't have to get rid of anything, because that whatever quality might be showing might be perfectly good. It's seen differently. It's not a question about getting the attributes right. The attributes will work themselves out. like rolling wheels, sorting out their own, space and place, using the momentum of whatever forces are in relationship with. All these things are just simply moving to be so. But it doesn't mean that principally there's a taste for where the experience of tasting chocolate or something isn't favoured. Preferences show up. Preferences show up for the body. It's a chemistry, an energy. It might be wise preferencing, or it might be foolish preferencing. It might be approximately right and approximately wrong preferencing. These things are just simply arising. Where the conditions show up, there tend to be habits. So what we, when something feels uncomfortable in the self and the mind is going through old skandhas, like old mental formations, for where it's given it a meaning value to something and it says, I know, there. It's not just a question of I know. What is known? How can you, like when it comes to mechanical things, simple utility, it's like one and one. When it's a question of doing something fundamental, it's just about utility. Mm-hmm. But if it was to organize itself according to that, then it would be perfectly happy. It would have worked it out by now. That thing is an illusion. That thing that's been attributed to the reason why you're motivated for your movement. Where desire sits, say, for instance, or the urge to be more, that seeking thing is just coming out of a body impulse. But what we attribute it to is our failing, because it feels agitated. It doesn't feel like it's settled. And it's conditioned to be that way through our education, that it's constantly seeking more. To a certain degree, that's perfectly good. It makes for a cooperative person. A person who is within their community, within their family. These things are perfectly fine. Or not. Like there's a discernment that happens here. But, often what happens is in the mask of that urge, that urge and that dissatisfaction that comes through the urge for just tasting out the world moves. I think it really comes from the tongue, that urge. It's and the tongue can reach it. It's a really subcode, which an apparent self has been um, um, it's been communicated for it to see that no, maybe that's not correct. How could I say that? These principal urges get confounded in the mental formations, basically, away from their fundamental urge. So they're not seen for what they are. And so then through cross association and misassociation, a number of problems come. But see, you have to be very, very careful with coming at this from a mental point of view, because the preferentials of where the desire sits will rearrange things in accordance with that rather than holistically, because that's where its orientation is, toward its desire and satisfying where a disruption shows up to be. Nothing wrong with that. That might be perfectly so. It will arise for that to be so, right? But that's not it. It doesn't matter that shows up. But where's the self in it? Where's the one that claims it? It's just worth looking at it. It sounds like if there's no self, it's like a house of cards. Everything's going to collapse. It won't. Maybe for a moment or so, just because something of this is seen. Something of this is seen. Once it's seen, it's nothing that needs to, it doesn't need any attending. It doesn't need any attention. It's just happening as it is. And this is it. See? And I know there's a bit of talking about it, around it, rather than going, because there's nothing there. And it's slowly just, and it doesn't matter that it's not there. That the mother loves of you is still here, apparently. And those things which create our mutual complicity seem to be here until they're not. So that not, it gets seen for what it is, just slowly. It doesn't mean one loses their abilities or sensitivities or body and taste preferences or all those things may perfectly stay intact. The insistence of that having to be that way softens out. So many things for where an apparent self clutches to hold itself together. There's a lot of tension in that shows up. But anyway, interesting. Look at it. What is it? This is where meditation usually happens. It will say, why am I dissatisfied? That's the whole Buddhist question. That fundamentally life is suffering and the foundation of it is desire. Don't fully agree with that, but it's a good start. Interesting. You can't divide it. That it looks like desire might look like it's pinpointed, but it's showing up in everything to be so. This is totally relaxed to all of this. Even what seems inappropriate. It's totally free. This is totally free. But what arises might still be beautifully cooperative individual, on the surface of anything, nothing changes, nothing needs to change. Perfect as it is. What appears like worries might even arise, but not with the same sting. It can communicate for adjustment without getting caught up in it, making drama out of it. So, once what looked like perhaps something which was very, very disagreeable to the self now just shows up as a small functional adjustment that can be communicated for nicely. There's no selves in it. on that level, there's nothing personal. You know, what we call personality, generally speaking, is a way of mediating between people when they don't really know one another, or having fun, playful, or going through all an arrangement of emotion or making their points more poignant. All this can arise, but all that is also unreal. Everything fundamentally is empty and meaningless, but everything shows up with its cooperative dependencies, always. That's what this is. Like a goldfish perfectly placed in a beautiful aquarium, perhaps, or not. Difficult part in the aquarium. Go up like that. But always in the space of impermanence. Things change. Everything that looks to be sensation and the perspectives over these sensations and the subsequent chemistry in that, and even the mental formations which become emotion. This is just simply seen as it is, from nowhere, from everywhere. You see? And it seems to have an intelligent station for communicating whatever it needs to and cooperating in whatever way it can. Certain inclinations may arise different to desire, or that there seems to be prior learning to circumstance and abilities and skills show up. This also happens. This dependent complicity, the natural togetherness, openness, the opportunities arising, having a degree of sustainability and then ceasing. But everything, none of it. There seems to be no time in it, in that there's no time needed to grasp it. It just happens. For this claims a speaking, but the speaking couldn't come forward if you weren't here. For what looks like the appearance of things, there's no separation in any of this, no separation in bodies and forms and energy. But there appears to be that, of being a locality, being a station, but of the same substance, if you like, underlying something like it. Just if it sits easy, there's a subtlety to everything. You can't say what it is, but it feels okay. Mostly, always, you know. But not because of anything. It can feel like how about things because of those things too, but not necessarily. And claiming nothing no one to claim anything. Not really even movement, no mover, no moving, no moved. Something about that. But, obviously, if you're taken out for a nice drive in a car or something, it looks like you're going for a nice drive in a car. That mutual interdependence of everything working in harmony like this. Really a mystery. I mean, we say, we know it's a road, it's, being dressed nice, being appropriate, sitting with the right person, going in a nice car, driving down the road. For everything like this. Just looking at it, I mean, for what it can honestly know. It's asking bigger questions. Because there's a conservative atmosphere, a conservative set of truths that show up. And that ultimate truth that underlies it, not to be different, all of that is within it. And the faculty so much more leans on the buddhi, the intellection. One naturally comes from the buddhi through the discernment. That's really pretty much anything that looks to be done there. There seems to be a choice. But that's part of the natural state. It seems to emerge out of this, like that merging, knowing, no knowing needed. Disagreement. That's Sunyata. Little passive, maybe. Just naturally seems to happen. Seems to be just naturally declutched a little bit. Not so much on the fore, maybe can do. It will show up as that moving forward strongly, but maybe not, just easy. There's no self needing to will this right. It's a contradiction. But that part that sees that it can will to do something right just simply arises. And looking at it's the not we're talking about for where it gets locked up in mind, thought, for being, I'll use the word unworthy, not good enough, which is part of that. If I could get this right, then I'll get what I want, which is just that urge, which has no object to it really anyway. The urge will go toward that urge, which is desire, that thirst they talk of in Buddhism, but we know it all well. It seems to apprehend all these ideas. If I get to that, if I get this, if I get there, if I get this, if I get this, then it will be good. Nothing wrong with that, because it might be perfectly fine, but not because of it. It isn't first. It's just an attribute. It's just a facility. It's just part of the fabric of the way that things show up. So seeing right, then the desire, it goes quiet. It gets seen. It's just, this desire to taste all the time. It doesn't need to. And something which is odd for the self seems to be conditioned in such a way where it doesn't like emptiness. It has to be something. It has to get something, it has to be something, it has to, all these things. But the reality is that this doesn't need that at all. Can do, it's all fine. But for the way those obsessions go, or where mind gets stuck in the ideal, says, look, until I've achieved this, perfectly good, that mechanism for how it comes up. It goes, I need to finish this. This needs very, very good. Nothing wrong with that. But the obsessive one, which is neurotic, the one that goes, all right, well, that was not right. Okay, over here. Okay, that was not right. Oh, here. No, that's not right. I'll never get it right. And all that. That's an illusion. Not the urge. No. The urge is just part of the mechanism. Shows up in the waking state. Shows up a bit in dream too. But it's not constant. Here, this interest in that consistency, there is no consistency in any substance, in any form, in any sensation, in any perception, in any mental formation of getting it right, or even in the levels of consciousness. It's not essential. There's nothing essential. There's no essence to anything. It's unbounded. It looks to be having essence. Formation shows up. Sensation shows up, and repeatedly so. The formation of a world, a real waking day, all of this. And here, the natural state is just immersed in all of that. Every one, there's no one high or low of this. There's nothing hidden. But seeing, one could call it noumena, principle, but not even that. But not to negate. It's not a nihilism. Nothing needs to be changed. things are likely to change. And not for a set of reasons or rationalities out of a self constructing it to make it right, but that may show up to be so. That's merely attributes. When abilities show up, it's a simple utility. It's a decision to travel to another country or to do this or to do this. Perfectly fine. Not that. All this comes and goes. It's in that appears to be the not of the self. It's an illusion. It's the only illusion. But it doesn't mean that a character doesn't show up here as Tahir. Even a personality, if it's needed, all of it's there. All the attributes of an apparent self are still here, including desire and a body and a mind. But now a perspective is here. There's a perspective, want of saying it. Not because it's positioned perspective, but it is positioned perspective. It's in that. I like the iota of a moment where it's just because it says something about the quality of it. Not to hold mind out, mind is there, but then mind and thought shows up in its perspective, in the iota of the moment. Thought is still there, mind is still here, thought is all here, but in the iota, it's not saying it can say something about anything. It can expand. Exactly what is that? An iota of a moment. How big is that? The perspective seems to change. And the language does too. Wisdom comes up for what appears to be consciousness, awareness, the buddhi, the faculties of what looks to be mind. Yes. For now, like things are seen in perspective. The ahankara, the driver now isn't the obstacle. It's simply just managing things nicely within how it appears to be showing up for a body, mind, person, personality, character, all of that. Nothing is taken away. Things may change, but there seems to be an application there. It can be playful, it can have a beer, it can, it doesn't have to be perfect. It can relax, it can eat what it wants, it can do, but now it's coming through discernment. All of that. It even appears to be somewhat of a better driver, perhaps, but just traveling lighter because it's not caught up in the drama of being a self. See? Circumstance might be good or bad, down, left, right. These things change. There's no permanence in any of that. It's not our issue. It's all just incremental adjustment, even for moving vast distances. It's only an incremental adjustment, if that's what arises to be so. You see, and just looking carefully. So the meditation's here, you see. Contemplation, meditation, the fabric, it's not to be reductive. It's not cutting, it's looking very carefully. It's looking very carefully. It's also in its own will. And more like a Buddha, it sort of happens probably naturally. Just and it doesn't worry whether it's appreciated or not. It will be appreciated. It has a steadiness about it. There seems to be a steadiness about it. That's good. It abides. Word, abiding. It's like being at home everywhere. Mm. And it's appreciated for its quietude, perhaps. But the brooding self is gone. The brooding self stops. Nothing is lost. Nothing is gained. Nothing is not lost. On that level, the dimension is different too. Nisargadatta would use the word apperception. I like that word, apperception. Apperception. It's like, in Hindi religion, they call it Parabrahm, very openness, vast openness. And wherever that is, if it this apperception of openness seems to be instrumental for the apprehension of openness. And something of it, because also that's the meditation. The meditation is in that openness. It's also that spatial element. So every apparent arising is also it. It's throughout it. I usually sort of speak in the positive terms, but it is. And but not to hold anything, not to qualify anything, no one to hold on to anything, no way to hold on to anything, no need to hold on to anything. Everything has its natural order. It's all mutually complicit. Immediately. And it has its beauty in every way too. It's like, even if it's a bit funny, even if it's not ideal. Even if it seems to favour the mind but not the body, or vice versa, or favour the circumstance and not the body, whatever. Totally unconditional. A revelation in the conditioning without changing a thing. Because its perspective is open on every level. It's open on every level within the world of matter, whether that's deep sleep or dreaming or the waking state. Imbued with sensation, whether that's exquisite or whether it's painful or whether it's annoying or itchy or whatever, in every apparatus of the body, all the senses, all levels of perception, openness throughout, but not to do anything. How do you be open? It is open without the contraction of a self, just open. Not because of knowing. This type of meditation, this type of contemplation, very nice. Elegant, I think. Elegant. Just non-interference. But also perfectly fine that in the arising thought, opinionation may show up. Total freedom. Freedom to be able to make mistakes. These things aren't accumulative. There's no accumulation in this. There isn't causality. There is causality. But there's not the spiritual causality. There is the spiritual causality, but no. It's clear straight away now, here. It's not going to a perfect state. It doesn't need to go to a perfect state. It's totally open. It might be like an arahanta or a bodhisattva or a buddhi or whatever. But it will appear just like a simple man doing a simple job. It establishes itself. There's no establishment needed. But it appears to be so. Something seems to fall away. And it's in the reflection of emptiness. That's the interesting thing. It's in the reflection of emptiness. So there seems to be a boon there, personally. Special means, but for being this type of open, this astute, staying with it, because it's a bit slippery, this subject. We know what we're talking about. It's like clean right in the very middle, in the very heart of it. Of course it is. I mean, look at it. It hasn't. There's nothing there, but it's completely empty. The mental formations are here. The accumulated memory is here. The faculty of knowledge is here. Understand degrees of understanding. But no, the middle. This clear. That which stands before it all, before consciousness, even just there. And
you mean, oh, sorry.
yeah,
Continue.
No, please.
You said before consciousness, maybe by using words of Nisargadatta, you mean this feeling I am
No,
before consciousness?
because the I calls in the I, and this is useful for looking at attributes. But this isn't about attributes. All that just shows up in it. This. And you can't name it to be yourself in the same way as we can't name it to be God. We could, but we're being romantic, and we're creating a positionality. We're creating position locality for these things. So then, even though there isn't any space in this, see, this doesn't have a locality at all. It doesn't need it. But this body, Sunyata, here speaking, our friendship, our relationship here, well, this seems to have a particularness. It's looking at a nuance, if you like, spiritual, religious, metaphysical, philosophical, psychological, physiological, all these different sort of investigations in some degree, but not really. They just need to be pointed at, because once you see it in one quality, that it doesn't have any solidarity, you can see that it's not in any of them. You know, the reality of form, matter is questioned, and not even to get to a quantum physics level. Just on a very, very simple level, in that things pass. Things disappear out of our orb. So exactly who is that for? And of course, you know, the question isn't that the world isn't real, but it's looking at the phenomena of how it occurs to this. And it looks at all that, all the way through the formation of what appears, what's attributed to be a self. And it'd probably be better to attribute it to being a body, because too many misunderstandings come up, because the moment we start talking about soul and spirituality and God, then we can either get airy, fairy, and romantic about it, or think that we're saying something, you know, and then it just gets, rather than really looking carefully, because that's what's going on here. We're just looking carefully at this for what's attributed to meditation and contemplation. What is that still point? I'm reluctant to say point because I don't see it as a point, but you know, what is that? You know, what do we mean by the ultimate truth? Because that's where the question is. It's not going, oh, I want to get a car, I want to get that, I want to get a wife, I want to get this list of desires. This is going right to it like this. If this, we correct this, it's what Jesus meant by seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all this will be added unto you. So that's a spiritual search, right? Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, that idea. And then all this will be added onto you. So some of us tend to go toward the spiritual path more seriously. And what we're trying to do is ask that big question. Exist within it. Experience it. And this is it. We get caught so much in the agitation of getting to that we miss this. And this is something very nuanced too. It's not completely empty of content. Like we could just wipe it off and say it's a waste cause. There seems to be refinements in this too for the misapprehensions we've made about the locality of anything, and particularly yourself. And when you start really looking at it, it seems to open up. It's fantastic sometimes. Really curious for where that openness seems to lead it. It does seem to have qualities too. Clarity of a type, of an order which is tangible. That thing that, gets attributed to light, illumination, where revelation, realization, all these other qualities, the things that are attributed to the Buddhi, the Buddha, the Buddhi, the clarifying factor of intelligence, without Dharma, whatever you like. But I don't like speaking in these terms because then everyone's got to throw all their theories into it. And then all of a sudden we have to work out all the theories to get to this. We don't. We just have to look at it, find a means of looking at this squarely, from whatever tact. You see? But this is just mental formations. This is this. Perfect now, right now. That here, this, in an iota of a moment. This is perfect, just here. Just to relax into this, that it is. Until you see it for what it is. Empty. And in the emptiness is the freedom. In the emptiness is Jiva Mukti. Jiva Mukti isn't even a thing. There's no liberation of us, liberated self. It's liberated from the self. But, it's so easy to miss because everyone's inducted into the functionality of this, and to a degree the functionality of it is really, really important. Yes, because that's how we cooperate. But there's a whole heap of crap in this too, a hell of a lot of crap in the nature of a self that makes it so hard for people, and everyone encourages one another to sort of be playing in that realm, way beyond fundamental things. And not to make anything wrong with any of that or to cast judgment over any of that, because for what might look to be fundamental for one set of people, one, as we well and truly know, is not fundamental for another, and vice versa. So, in the realm of compassion, it's not about having some position of authority either. But authority might show up in the space for being cleared for it to show up. See, and that clarity might be regional or family-wise or intimate relatedness-wise or anything, talking with a dog-wise or being in the world, talking to lots and lots of people, or being transnational and, who knows? It can show up like all these ways. But here it's just really, really simple. And for there it's also really simple, but people get inflated by it. It's a self which becomes that bombastic form, and it seeks out power and doesn't consider anyone else. It probably lacks compassion, I would say, generally. Not that it matters. It's like, again, because that's just appearance, and it's all impermanent. So, critically, the most important thing here is that clarity. You see? But there is a bit of a burn in that. But it will show up in every way it does too, inconveniently as well. Yeah. Irritation can show up, anger can show up, upset can show up, all fine. It's not trying to mediate itself. to a position. It's more Mahamudra. The word is more like the poise of a snake rather than a fixed position. This is the state of consciousness. This is the state of consciousness where the Mahasiddhis talk of it. So that's more a yoga stance for where one stays poised in mind and goes into the more subtle states, samadhi. But that's all here now anyway. These are just qualities of openness. So openness and clarity and light seems to be an important variant. But this means the light of intellection, that word intellection, more like a shining light, the buddhi. And the chit is this for seeing it all with those things that, like make people suffer unnecessarily and, heinous crimes and all number of things, where, perhaps our quietude would contribute. One doesn't want anyone to suffer, but anyway, this is just mine speaking. Because in the immediate circumstance, it would meet beloved in every way that it could be helpful. If there was any strife, it would be immediate. But it would do it with clarity still. And it might choose silence and quietude for where there was lots of disturbance. Just to be silence and quietude. Meditation and contemplation can show up like that. It can be in a very, very busy room, which I'm sure you're fully aware of, Tahir. A lot of human beings live out of habits which don't necessarily work, that maybe need to be understood in new terms, of unnecessary suffering in small ways too. But anyway, all with the reflection of intellection, with just clarity and openness, emptiness first. Emptiness is the measure for everything. That's why Nagarjuna called it the middle way. The middle way is emptiness, and then you mediate. See that? Interesting. Just there. So that's qualifying, relieving, simple there. For those who can touch that quietude, there seems to be a boon there. This is meditation and contemplation. It's also free of contemplation and meditation. It's just openness. Beautiful. Mahamudra, the poise. Beautiful, natural. Not to be religious, not to be spiritual, not to have to sit for hours in a day, but it can choose all of those things. But before that, Sahaja, the natural state, not a state, natural reality, not reality, no terms, no ideas, no formations, no mind, no thought, all thought. And I'm not bamboozling you by sort of saying all these holdings, because it's just because we're this here now, so we can speak into it. That's what's actually going on here, effectively. Like you said, if the language can come through directly with one another, we just look at it. It's a celebration. You talk about attainment, enlightenment. What? And write this. It learns to discern and discriminate between the different qualities all the way through. There seems to be an ordering, arrangement, and maturing too. That seems to show up. So, when a sticky problem comes up or some irritating subject that you've revisited many, many times, to look at it with wholeness. If it has any sustainability at all. All we're talking about is this right here, this, not this meeting, just the underlying. Nothing. Not because there's not a car sitting on the street or people doing things, not nothing, not nihilistic, free. Always. Even when it's not. We've come at it 1,000 ways. Mm. But it's fun trying to talk for it too. Mm. It doesn't have any concern with the world. But not because it's not aware that things which concern it are going on. It doesn't like war. It doesn't like unnecessary suffering. But it's perfect. And that's not a denial. It's just not making a lollipop out of this situation. And, I think for also, there seems to be sort of cycles in the life of the human body and human beings. And for the young person, there's so many mountains to climb. And really, it likes it. And all those drives and all those urges to have it move, to be so, are just happening. And it just moves with it accordingly. Ultimately, there's no one really choosing that. It's all through the dependency of everything else about it. And there's no requirement to do anything for this meditation, but sometimes meditation just happens. It's just, and it'll go even in deeper. That seems to happen as well. Architecture seems to change in itself. That seems to happen too. And that was once the self shows up, that can happen too. But the stickiness of all this, the entanglement for having a sublime focus seems to somehow soften it too, for being open to this. Skillful means shows up as well for softening this. This seems to happen too. And all these can be in the practice of anything. Yoga is good. There's so much of it if you want to look at it. But not necessarily. It can be anything. It can be having a beer on Friday with your friend. It can be anything. You're already like a Buddha to me, Tahir.
Tahir, understand you little bit. Yes, you mean live without tension, live in quietude. But Tahir has some fear that he will be born again and will start everything from scratch. Everything again, same with problem, same childhood, same need to go to school, study, to gain some work, and
And
maybe
yeah, don't worry. No. What hasn't been done? Honestly, it doesn't have to have all those difficult adventures. A few adventures are probably fine, and then it goes, it's not really even interested. That's all right too. Whiling away the time. So, like it does things nicely, helps where it can, lives quietly and simply. You know what I mean? Like, and all those little simple things are easily achieved. Or traveling lighter. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That also shows up to be. It seems to be written too, that anything can happen. Perhaps indifference first, before fear. So what? I'll do it now then. I'll live this life out fully now then. Have to do this? Well, it's just happening. There's no one to have to do anything. It's just showing up to be so. There's no one to make a choice.
Maybe let's take some time to contemplate on tonight's sharing. Slowly, slowly come back to your breath. Come back to the body. Come back to the physical environment. Thank you very much, Sunyata, for your sharing. And thank you, Tahir, for taking part tonight and your questions.
Yeah, thank you. Good session tonight. Tahir, good. Thanks for sort of being so lovely and forward and sharing with me. That's good stimulus. Anyway, the tree seems to have lots of fruits hanging off at the moment for us in meditation. It's interesting how it shows up, but without putting any objects to things. Quietude is good, underappreciated.
Have a lovely evening. And see you next time.
Bye.